This is Master Ministry, eternal effectiveness in your ministry. That's what it's all about. Tips and tools and truths that I trust will help advance your ministry for the Master, not for you, so that you can make an eternal impact in the lives of people. This is Doug Hammett. I'm here as your host today. And, well, I've got some disturbing news I'm going to be sharing with you today. You'll want to stay tuned, or maybe not, all right? You can categorize this, I guess, as a rant. I'm not much on ranting. Oh, I do from time to time personally, but I don't usually publish those. But this one here, I'm publishing. All right. And if that something bothers you, just tune me right on out right now. Go ahead and click the off button, all right? But I think you can learn something if you'll hang in with me. Status quo thinker, you just want things to kind of rock along and everything be okay. Just shut me right off. No sense in spending any time talking to me or listening to me. Don't waste your time. Go do something else, okay? But if you're interested in making an eternal impact, if you're interested in eternal effectiveness, then you will want to listen, okay? That's just where I'm coming from. Now, things are terrible, and there's nothing I can do. If that's you, then please, there's something you can do. Just hit the off button, okay? Don't go any further with me. Okay, enough. All right, I'm headed on. Let's talk about what this is all about here today. I just heard some news again, and I'd heard it before from another missionary, and just got news again on the email from a different missionary with the same group, and so I went and checked it out, and indeed found the news story, read it, and I'm disturbed. I mean, I'm just disturbed, okay? No, I'm not part of that group. And does it affect me personally? No, not necessarily, although it is an indication of where America's headed. It's an indication, I'm afraid, of a problem that not only is that denomination facing, but independent Baptists as well. And so I'm going to speak to that for just a little bit. Back in the 70s, when God saved me, 1971, I went off to a Southern Baptist college and got my education there, pastored in the convention for a while, and in the 70s then, I left the convention. And one of the reasons that I left, probably the major reason, there were a number of different things that kind of played into all of this, but the major reason was what I saw as politics in missions. And the mission board, the way the money was used, what I felt like was misappropriation of funds, improper management, misspending of that money, and out lying to people in churches, and really missions was sidelined there. And I just didn't feel like it fit the Bible model at all to start with. And then second, because of the doctrine of the church, as I began to understand it from Scripture, it was time for me to get out. And I did. I've been an independent Baptist ever since. Now what I've been watching happen is groups where time and again, leaders in these groups, so-called leaders, in like the BBF and some of the other crowds, are trying to champion the cause of going back to the Southern Baptist Convention, finding a way to mold back together with them. And I think that's a big mistake. But if those guys came out of there to start with as an organization, then hey, all power to you. Go on back to your mama, if you will. I am an independent Baptist. I am an independent Baptist born by God and recognized the error of my way in being a Southern Baptist, and I left on purpose, okay? I don't hate Southern Baptists. I've got friends in the convention, and the two missionaries that I heard from are from the convention, okay? But I am very disturbed by what is happening there. They told me when I left the convention, they said, oh no, we're on our way to fixing things. All the problems are going to be worked out. Liberals are going to be dealt with, and we're going to take over. Now, they're saying, by their own admission, we are a denomination in decline. And yet, there are so-called independent Baptists leading the charge saying, let's go back to the convention and join them. Why? Because they themselves are in decline. This is what bothers me, okay? Now, let me tell you the convention story here just real quickly. I picked it up off of the Religious News Service. See if I can get that on the camera there for you. This is David Platt, who's the head of the International Mission Board. Back in 2015, the board made a move to cut its missionaries by 600 missionaries. They had 5,500 at that time. They cut it down by 700 actually and got down to about 4,800 according to this article. And now they are wanting to cut as many as 800 more positions and get rid of missionaries. Now they're doing it through a voluntary program, saying if you've been in as a missionary for 5 years or longer, we'll talk to you about retirement, give you some retirement benefits, and let you go. Now, all of that is meant to do one thing. They're trying to save money because they're a denomination in decline. And so they're trying to get people who have been in missions for any length of time. 5 years. Come on. That's not all that long. But they want to put them in retirement because they're making too much money. And so they want to get the younger ones in there. And they'll send some of those in, but they can save money by sending young ones and get rid of the wise ones who know something, if there are some. Okay? All right? And so David Platt is announcing this change that is taking place. Now, what bothers me is this. Basically, what they're saying is, missions has been done. Missions work is good enough. We've accomplished all we need to do. Our world is reached well enough. They've said, in essence, as I've titled this, God is dead. There's no hope for us. We can't do any more. We can't advance in this world. We're going in decline. God is dead, so let's spend His money before the company goes out of business. Now, those are my words. They didn't say it. I said it. Okay? But I don't believe it. I don't believe God is dead. I don't believe we ought to spend His money because the company's going out of business. I don't believe that one iota. But I do believe that there are people in the convention who believe that. I think that they think that the only thing they can do is whatever they can do instead of what God can do. I think that they've missed some things. But if this was only the problem of the convention, I wouldn't even be on here right now talking about it. It's a problem in independent Baptist life. It's a problem in independent Baptist churches today. No, not every church. It's not an indictment against every church. But let me tell you, it probably fits more feet of churches than we would care to admit. There are churches that have decided we can't do anything. We can't go anywhere. Our God has died. Let's just go ahead and spend His money before we go out of business. And I am disturbed by it. We need missionaries. Our world needs to be reached. The Great Commission has not been rescinded. It has not been changed, okay? Our God has given us marching orders, and we're to take the gospel into all the world. We're to preach the gospel to every creature on planet Earth. We're to go even to the uttermost parts of the earth. We have a commission, a mission that we must fulfill, and we have not done it, okay? Now, our God is big. Our God is almighty. Our God is able. There is no reason for us to quit. There's every reason for us to advance. But there's some lessons. Here's our problem, all right? Here's our lessons. Number one, missions has become a business. It's a business in the convention. They've got bean counters in Nashville and Atlanta and other places who decide the size of the house that the missionary can live in. And then if the house that they rent, they can't find one small enough, then what they do is they make them put a board over the door so that they don't have a house too big. But they still pay the rent for that room that they're boarding up. It's the most foolish thing I've ever heard of in my life. Absolutely ridiculous. A bean counter that's never even left America trying to tell people on a foreign field how to do their business. Now, Independent Baptists, I'm not too sure that we're not any better, okay? I mean, when you stop and think about it, people in America sitting there trying to decide what should be done or shouldn't be done on a foreign field, and they've never even traveled outside the United States, let alone really understand the situations that the missionary is facing. That's a problem. When the only thing that a missionary is good for is to bring him in so he can talk about missions, so that he can raise more money for the church, so they can have a bigger budget, that's business as usual. And I could tell you of preachers that have gone by the wayside who have had that attitude, and God has taken them out. Thank the Lord for that. But I'm telling you right now, missions is not a business. Missions is the mission of the Lord's churches. That is exactly what the Lord's church is supposed to be all about, is the business of taking the gospel around the world. Now, I know the word missions is not in the Bible. Our purpose is to go out and evangelize those who do not know Christ, to congregate those who get saved and to form churches and leave behind leadership that will turn around and do the same thing and start more churches. And if we're not doing that, then we've given up. Now, sad to say, many missionaries, I think, have given up. They've decided it's nothing more than a business. Let me just figure out how to stay busy on the foreign field so I can write a letter and clip my coupons and get money sent to me so I can just live here and be happy. Business is not, or missions is not business. Missions is what we're to give our lives for. Second of all, we live for status quo instead of sacrifice. God didn't send me to the mission field to just be status quo. I know it was kind of warmly circulated by some enemies of mine in America that when 5 years ago when I resigned Lehigh Valley Baptist Church as the senior pastor and said that I was coming to the foreign field as a missionary, they said, oh, that Hammett guy, he's going over there to retire. He's just going over there to take it easy. He's going over there to spend his time with his grandkids. Now, let me just tell you, nothing would please me any more than spend time with my grandkids. I enjoy that. But that's not the purpose of my life. The purpose of my life is sacrifice. I'm not here because it's comfortable. I'm not here because it's easy. I am here because God has ordered the directions, and I'm more than happy to be here because there's a world to be reached, and there's countries here that are untouched with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we need to be out there all around the world. We need to be reaching into these places and finding ways to reach people. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I think mission should be all about. And that's what I think every New Testament Baptist church should be all about. If we're not about the business of reaching souls around the world, not just building your own little kingdom, around the world, then you're not thinking big enough. So we ought to be about sacrifice. We need some more young folks. We need some more old folks on the field. And there's room for both and everybody in between, all right? Number 3. Missions has become a side business. Nothing more than something that we kind of sprinkle on top in our churches. We talk about it, but that's about it. In the Southern Baptist Convention, it's not unusual for many of the churches to have never, ever seen a real live missionary in person. They might read a story now and then. The preacher might mention the name missions from the pulpit once in a while. But that's where it all stops. In independent Baptist life, they'll parade a missionary through from time to time. There are churches like this, sad to say, who parade a missionary through, but he's really not what they're all about. He's just there as window dressing. Now, thank God for the many churches I know who missions is front and center. Let me encourage you to keep it that way because that's how Jesus kept it. I believe that's what the Lord's church ought to be all about. And if you're missing that, if you're misunderstanding this, if you're going to use missions as some kind of a side business, then I pray God takes the candlestick away and lets you die a fast death, okay? The Lord's church is meant to be, each church, local, New Testament, independent Baptist church, is meant to be a lighthouse to the world. Let's get busy and do our business, and let's stop letting the money define whether we're going to do the work of God or not. We're here with the power of God, knowing that our God is well able to throw the doors open wide. I don't see any reason for despair. Now, you may be a pastor saying, oh my soul, or maybe a missionary saying, oh my soul, but I'm not seeing results. I'm not seeing much happen. Well, could I ask you a question? Would you like to get out of your box that's confining you? Yes, you can. Would you like to get out of your box that's confining you and into the book that ought to define you? The Word of God tells you that your God is not dead and there's nothing impossible with God. I know that sounds like real nice talk, but there are ways to do this. And if you tune into the next broadcast, I'll be talking to you about the 3 main things that every Baptist preacher needs to be an expert on. Well, really, I'm not going to call it the 3 main things. I'm going to call it the 2.5, okay? You know, 2.5? Yeah, I'll have to explain why. All right. But, folks, I'm upset. I'm not upset at Southern Baptist Convention. They're just doing what's normal and natural for them. They've been counting money for decades. They went astray probably in the 50s or a little before when they started heading down the wrong path on missions and church doctrine. But I'm an independent Baptist. And I'm concerned for our brethren in our churches that we stay on the right path. And I believe we can do a work for God even in our generation, even when it's dark. You want some help? You want to get out of your box that's confining you and get into the book that ought to define you? Give me a call, write me an email, drop me an email. Doug Hammett, just drop me an email. Get in touch with me, pdhammett@gmail.com. Go to the website over there, masterministry.com, and you can get some other recordings there and things that might help you. But drop me a line, let me know where you're struggling, and I'll be glad to be of some help if I can. And I believe I can. You don't have to sit there like this. Get up, let's do something for God while we've still got a little life left, okay? This is Doug Hammett from masterministry.com talking about eternal effectiveness. Yes, you can do more for God than what you're doing, and so can I. And let's don't settle for status quo. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.